Hey everyone, welcome back to the next video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how you can fund your way through undergraduate college with minimal amounts of student debt. Also, stay tuned to hear about my story and how I graduated with minimal amounts of student debt. Let's get started. Okay, it's no secret that college is expensive. We all know this. We get drilled into our heads that college is the route that we have to go down. We get pressures from media, society, our parents, that it's just the right thing to do, that it's what we need to pursue. And I don't necessarily agree with that. While college can be great, I do believe it's not for everyone. There's so much emphasis put on the you have to go to college, but there's very little explanation about how you have to pay for college outside of racking up loads of student debt, which no one wants that. Not only is the cost of education in college rising, but the actual amount of education needed to make a living decent wage is also rising. So that means that you have to get more education to just be able to make ends meet. That means more debt to make ends meet. I am not against the idea of debt. It serves a function in our society, and this isn't me trying to go on a rant about that, but I am against excessive, unnecessary debt, which to a point, a lot of student debt can be. Okay, so I'm not going to go off about the dangers of debt in this video. My main purpose is to inform anyone who is interested in looking to find ways to fund their way through college without going into debt. I'm looking to provide information on how you can do that. First things first. And this one is probably going to be just the truth pill I'm going to spill on all y'all listening. It's working through college. The truth is, there's really very few reasons why you shouldn't be working through college. So this is coming from someone that worked 2 jobs while going to school full time. So I get the struggle. It weighs in and it affects your grades in some kind of a way. But it is beneficial to you in more way than one to be working during college. So the whole purpose of going to college is to eventually get a professional industry job in whatever you're going to school for. And nowadays, simply having that bachelor's degree in whatever isn't enough. You have to have that experience to back it up as well. But your future employers want to see that you worked through college. Preferably, you would try and find a position that more links up with your field. So, why work during college? Well, you want to support yourself while you're going to school. Oftentimes, it can be a little hard to actually support tuition with working during college, but a part-time job at any service industry or any retail industry can help support the other stuff like your bills, like rent or phone or Wi-Fi or any of that kind of stuff. And if you're wise with your money or you really pinch some pennies, you can even pay your tuition with it. Or use it to make up the difference of whatever scholarships or Pell Grants don't cover. So, where do you find work? So on campus, especially if it's a well-grounded university or even a 2-year college, you can find various different jobs, such as working as administrative aides, working as a research assistant, working as a tutor, or a teacher's assistant. There's a lot of different opportunities just on campus. And a lot of the positions I named aren't necessarily like job specific skills that you'll be learning, but you'll be getting to know people on campus. And that can be just as valuable as experience itself. We all know networking is something that's drilled into our head that we need to do. And honestly, sometimes the easiest way to do it is just to interact with the people you work with. You can of course find places off campus to work as well. So I've already mentioned like retailers or manufacturing, other factories. I recommend a part-time job because balancing a full-time job with working or also going to school full-time is real rough. But we all have to do what we have to do. And if you can, find a job that ties into your field of study of of what you're going to school for. Here's my pro tip that I wish I would have done while I was working all of my jobs during school. It's that I took notes about the actual tasks I completed, or the skills I learned, or projects I was a part of during all of my jobs that I had while I was in school, because you're gonna have to write a resume eventually, and trust me, you will not remember what you did 2 weeks ago, let alone 2 years ago in some barista job at Starbucks. It'll save you a lot of energy just having it written down in a place. And you know what, better yet, just have a resume and keep it updated. Like, that's probably the simplest thing to do. Okay, next up we have going to a 2-year university to complete your basics, and then transferring to an actual university or 4-year college. I think it may come as no surprise that going to a 2-year local state college is a lot cheaper than going to a 4-year university. Oftentimes when we are making that transition from high school to just going to university, we may not know exactly what we want to do. Why waste your money at this big top college where you're just really not really sure what you're trying to do? Why not go to a smaller college that is just as credible and knock out your basics, like your math, your electives, your humanities, your arts, all your history, English, all that stuff? Why not just go and get all of those completed at a 2-year college that's so much cheaper than a university? You can complete your basic degree requirements for a fraction of the cost, and oftentimes free, if you play your cards right and if you seek out financial aid from the government. I want to pass along a few words of wisdom and just make you aware of a few caveats in this course of action. It's that you really need to check with, if you already have a plan for your college, that the classes you take at the 2-year college transfer over to the 4-year college. The best way to do that is to contact the academic advisors at the very least the 2-year college that you want to go to, but preferably also with the 4-year college. You just want to make sure that the classes you're taking are actually accepted eventually at another class or another college. Trust me, this will save you some money. This will save you some time and effort. I made this mistake and I accidentally took a few classes that I didn't have to take. That was a waste of my time and my money, which, whatever. Next on our list is scholarships. I'm gonna be real with you. Scholarships can be difficult to get, not gonna lie. They're usually pretty competitive, and some of them have some pretty steep requirements, like academic requirements. You gotta keep a certain GPA, or you have to be, or financial requirements, you have to have a certain income level or below some income level, or even extracurricular requirements such as, a sports scholarship. Some scholarships even ask for a specific demographic, so like a transferred student or even different minorities. I'd say probably some of the typical requirements to keep your scholarship once you get it is like a GPA, maintaining a full or part-time status at your school. A lot of scholarships require that you write some sort of essay. They also will have you write out a list of accomplishments, or in some cases even make a video, which I had to do that for one of my scholarships. They'll have you submit letters of recommendations from trusted advisors or previous bosses, or even some of your professors. I recommend keeping an eye out for scholarship announcements in your school email. Yes, you can Google them or look them up online and just apply to them haphazardly, but I think it's more likely and probably more beneficial to get a scholarship that's more linked to possible people in your area. The last thing I wanted to go over was the Fafsa. The Fafsa stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Absolutely apply to this every single year that you're in college. Maybe even sometimes if you don't think you're gonna go to college yet, just do it anyway. This application, as is in the name, is your free application for getting Pell Grants or student loans from the federal government. So the actual application isn't too bad. You will need some tax information. If you're younger than 24, you will need your parents' information. If you're older than 24, you will use your own information. There are two forms of aid that you can receive from the federal government. One is Pell Grants. Now, these are a form of aid that you can receive, and it depends on your financial situation or on your parents' financial information. And it depends on how much you're in need of it, the cost of attendance at your school, and other stuff. This is money you don't have to pay back to the government. It is given to you to help fund your way through college, and it can be used for education expenses. Note that it's not just limited just for tuition. You can also use it for school supplies. The other form of aid that you get from the government after completing a Fafsa, if you're approved, is federal loans. Yes, I will talk about this. I know, I just want to rant about it at the beginning of this video, but I mean, it can be a little unavoidable at times. It is very important to note that there are different types of loans offered by the government. Some are better than others. Basically, there are 4 major types, and you're probably only going to be really concerned with maybe 3 of them if you're just starting out in college. So the first type is called direct subsidized loans. Now, these are the good ones. These are the ones that I used while I was in college. Why do I think that these are better than the others? I will tell you. These are eligible to any undergraduate student who demonstrate financial needs. So note that it is only for undergraduate students. It is not for graduate or second time bachelors. The reason that these are more favorable than other forms of the federal loans is because that they are subsidized federal student loans. So as long as you maintain your status as a student, and after 6 months out of college, you will not have to pay interest on these loans. Now, after that 6 months after you're no longer a student ends, yes, you will have to start paying interest on these loans, and you will actually have to start paying the loans back. These forms of loans are how you avoid paying the most money for the money that you borrow. The next type of federal student loan is the direct unsubsidized loans. Now, these are pretty much the same concept as the subsidized loans, except you will have to pay interest while you're in school. Interest will be accruing the entire time unless it's in a deferment period. This means that the total money that you will have to pay back to the government or to the loan creditor increases as you are in college. So yes, that's a bad thing. You don't want that. Go for the subsidized loans if you can help it. Now, the next type of loan is the direct plus loans. Now, these are loans that are made directly to the parent of an undergraduate student. So these don't actually go to the student, they go to the parent to help pay for the college expenses. The amount of money that your parents can borrow is dependent on a credit check. Now, there is a 4th type of loan, but it probably won't be of particular interest to anyone or any of you, at least at the moment. But it's good to know these things. It's called direct consolidation loan. And it's basically like if you have a bunch of student loans that are out, it'll pretty much consolidate all these loans into one large loan and potentially help you reduce the amount of interest you have to pay, possibly. That's basically the 4 types of loans that you can get from the federal government. Now, I will say that there are loans that you can get from a private lender. However, those are notoriously sketchy, or I guess sketchy is not the word, but they can be tricky. So I think if possible, avoid any kind of the private loans, stick to a federal government loan. Okay, well, that's basically all of the information I had on how to fund your way through college, and I hope that that was helpful to you. Now, if you want to stay tuned, I will share my own story and how I managed to get through college with minimal amounts of student loan debt. Okay, so to start out, I want to say that I have always had at least one job during college, but oftentimes I had 2. Most of the time I had 2. Probably about 80% of the time while I was in college, I had 2 jobs while going to school full time. It was interesting. So I was working at a grocery store during the entire time. That's where I probably supported myself was the most, was through just working at a local grocery store. And I also did co-ops, internships, and undergraduate research as my other jobs. I started off at a 2-year college and I took all of my basics there. Then I actually ended up transferring to a local university to pursue an engineering degree. I started off at a 2-year college and I just took my basic like math, science, history, arts, that kind of stuff. I just knocked it all out at a 2-year college. I funded that college all through Pell Grants and working part-time. I actually didn't have to take any loans out at that time while I was at my 2-year college. When the time did finally come to where I needed to transfer to a 4-year university, I was really honing in and keeping my eyes out on scholarships, on ways to fund my education at a 4-year university. I did apply to a lot of scholarships and it wasn't fun. Writing all those essays really sucked. But there was this one professor that I kind of grew close to. I had like 3 different classes by him, so he knew me by name. And he actually turned me on to this one scholarship that I applied for. So for this one, I had to write an essay, I had to get 2 letters of recommendation, and I had to film a video and submit my resume as well. It was a very specific scholarship, and that's probably, I think, what gave me an advantage for it, is because it was very specific to my own circumstances. So it was for a mechanical or aerospace engineer transfer student coming to that specific university that I wanted to go to. So it was basically the perfect opportunity, so I put everything that I had into getting it, and I managed to get it. Having your tuition covered is great and all, but due to life, it simply just doesn't cover everything. So there's the books, there's the supplies, there's the getting a laptop, there's the, having to pay for life expenses like bills, car payment, that kind of stuff. So sometimes working 2 jobs just wasn't enough. I mean, even though yes, I was working 2 jobs, it was really only at the most 40 hours a week. And oftentimes it was more like 20 to 30, and just sometimes it wouldn't cut it financially. During my time at my university, I did end up taking out a few student loans. I don't love that I had to do it because I don't like debt. I mean, who likes debt? I was very calculated with it, and I tried to take out the minimal amount possible. And I actually ended up having to take 1 class over. Yes, I'll admit that I had to take 1 class over. And so I had to pay that one out of pocket. So I did use student loans to pay for that 1 class. In total, during my 3 years at a university, I took out about $4,500 in student loans. To clarify, and for the sake of transparency, yes, I did use this money to help pay for my college expenses and my classes, and I also did use it for living expenses. At the time, I felt like it was necessary to do it, and I tried my absolute best to make sure that the amount that I borrowed was necessary but not excessive. And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, $4,500 isn't a ton of money for what I got out of it. I have a plan in place to help me pay down that debt as soon as possible. Well, there you have it. I hope you learned something or got a little benefit out of hearing me talk about this sort of thing. I just wanted to get that information out there. Yeah, some of it is probably kind of obvious, but I just want to make sure you know what your options are. You don't have to go in tons of debt to get through college. Thanks for watching. Bye.